What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today when I talk to you about Lucid, I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what really moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid went down 3.72%, 1525 the low. So new 52-week and all-time low was hit, 1667 the high, and 24.1 million shares being traded, 9.8 is the average. So a couple things on a macro standpoint, we did have ADP employment coming in at 54,000, 65 the forecast. Initial jobs claims coming in at 237 versus 232 the forecast. Both not necessarily the best. So of course the market was somewhat torn because negative data justifies more of a push lower, but since this is labor linked data and it is not necessarily the best, it does justify rate cuts. So kind of back and forth. ISM services, on a side note, did come in better than anticipated. So 52 versus 50.7 the forecast. So at the end of the day, the market was somewhat kind of moving because of this. In Lucid's case, I think it had its own set of problems because during the pre-market, it started to move higher only because of some of the PRs that they did put out. But as soon as the market did open, you had some institutions have other plans, which caused this crazy sell-off. So the PRs that did come out, one was associated to 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧, and ultimately it is because of this right here. So Lucid posted Lucid Presents Driven featuring 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧, directed by James Mangold. So this is a 2-minute clip for the most part. And yeah, good stuff. I think a lot of people knew that the campaign was going to be starting soon at the beginning of September. Just a lot of people didn't really know what to expect. In my opinion, yes, I think this is a good kind of advertisement for the Gravity. And keep in mind, that's what 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗖𝗧's plan and his role is, to push the Gravity. But I don't know if this is a crazy catalyst that you need to like stop what you're doing and buy Lucid. But then again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Clearly, if the market really liked it, it would have really moved higher. But aside from this one clip right here, which like I said was roughly around 2 minutes long, you did have Lucid announcing the closing of 300 million investment from Uber. And I see a lot of people trying to figure out the cost per vehicle. Just keep in mind, this 300 million is completely separate from that 20,000 plus order from Uber. So this 300 million is part of the whole kind of partnership with Uber and Nuro. And essentially, yeah, that's kind of a good thing. Some people are saying that because of this 300 million, that's not gonna, like, Lucid's not gonna dilute anymore. That 300 million, on a side note, is like chump change. It won't really last all too long. And basically, if you actually read it, that 300 million is destined for that partnership. So Lucid can't just use it for pizza day or whatever else. You guys get what I'm saying. But that 300 million, like I said, is completely separate. That 20,000 plus order from Uber is going to be a whole new set of revenue. As far as how much revenue, that's one thing that analysts didn't really like, because even in the most recent Bloomberg interview, Mark was asked, what is the cost per vehicle that Uber's getting? And he unfortunately was unable to answer that. And so he kind of mentioned that they do have obviously that negotiated, but he wasn't willing to kind of share that. So I think that's one thing that analysts didn't really like, because Lucid could be giving a deal at cost, or potentially even losing money on this deal. Just, we don't know. And of course, as what they mentioned in the last earnings, that this deal is going to be commencing tail end of 2026. So most likely associated to the midsize. So let me know your viewpoint on that. But like I said, based on the price action, you would have anticipated that the market would have moved this up a little bit, but I don't know. Market seems to hate Lucid right now. And then again, I think Lucid just did all this damage to themselves anyways with the whole reverse stock split. People still just generally don't understand that. One thing that did come out that I wanted to share with you was this. So potentially it could have been a good catalyst. So this is all the actual estimated sales in the States from August. And it does show Lucid for the Airs, 923 sales, 70 Gravities. So this is now the first time it actually does show gravities, but you do have Mark right down here saying that this is completely false and this is inaccurate data. So when it comes down to this, I don't understand. There must be some gray kind of thing happening, because I don't see other companies such as Tesla and whatever else complaining, saying that these numbers are inaccurate. So there has to be something on Lucid's reporting side that is showing wrong information. Although, like I said, this is now the first time it actually does show any Gravity sales, but still 70 is rather on the low end. Ortex is updating all of their information, obviously post reverse stock split, but we can kind of calculate it behind the scenes. So right now the new short interest is 16.08%. So ultimately, over the last roughly 3 or 4 trading days, shorts have massively returned a lot. So today, I do believe that shorts returned a good, probably in my opinion, about 3 million shares. So of the overall volume today, so 24 million, shorts returned 3, which is again rather unfortunate that over the last 3 trading days that shorts can return freely and the stock price just goes down. Based on the options, you do have 5.1 million in calls, 18 million in puts, and then 60% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. And this is something that I actually as well did post, because I got a alert from Unusual Whales, and it looks like big money is buying $12 puts. So in case you don't know what that means, they are anticipating for it to be sub $12, and based on the premium $2, they're actually assuming it's going to be most likely a sub $10 for the most part. So rather unfortunate in reality, but aside from that, from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $17 range, and then bears are anticipating for it to be sub 15 and even 14 going into next week. So Lucid, if they have something in their back pocket, they need to really put it out. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So a couple buys, but mostly it's kind of, actually, to be fully fair, it's somewhat evenly divided. Big sell right here, so 14.8, that was just done after hours. Aside from that, these are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool, and actually I'll just correct that to the 4th. So a couple of ones just right here, so 1.2, 2.2 million, 1.5 million, but still in comparison, you're not really seeing that much. So the majority of the volume is coming from this, so algorithmic trading, and you can just see that based on the flow right down here. So this column very high, so algorithmic trading very much in force. As far as today though, in all honesty, you do start to see more willing buyers roughly around that $15 range, and this is probably why it did bounce off of the 15.25, because in comparison to the last couple of trading days, you see virtually no buyers, with exception of today. So at least the sell-off has prompted some level of buying, but it's at that $15 range, which is still rather low. So let me know your general thoughts on the side note. And just again, because of the whole reverse stock split, that $15 range works out to be $1.50. So that is some crazy stuff. And like I said, I think generally I'd want to see more news from the company just to kind of justify me to buy more. So I'm just kind of sitting tight with what I have. I'm not really willing to commit and buy more, because even on the actual chart, this right here, I know a lot of people are saying, hey, this is a steal of a deal. On a technical standpoint, this is a falling knife. One thing to keep in mind though is stochastic RSI is very oversold, so a good piece of news, you could really see a nice push higher, but again, if you believe in Lucid, take advantage, buy the dip and do what you need to do. But still, I think there's could potentially be a lot more downside. One thing that did come out though was a new analyst rating, which was done by TD Cowen, and it's been a while since we have actually had a rating from them, but $22 price target. So again, roughly around $2.20, which is very unfortunate given everything. So I feel over the next little bit, we will be seeing more and more ratings. Hopefully they're more on the positive side, but I think, like I've stated, Lucid, like everything is in Lucid's court. Lucid really needs to do something ASAP. They cannot be sitting on their ass just hoping for institutions to line up and buy, because so far since reverse stock split has occurred, kind of the opposite has been occurring, and so you haven't really been seeing any buying from institutions. So yeah, it's rather unfortunate, but with it at 16.16 where it did close, it closed below all the key fib levels. So just moving over to the classic, 11.15 is going to be that next strong support. So at the end of the day, it's rather unfortunate if kind of how this all played out. But if you have been dreaming for a deal, and I know a lot of people, even in my Discord, which you can join, is completely free, a lot of people have been begging for Lucid just to completely break down so they can buy more. Well, here you have it. Lucid broke down, so definitely put your money where your mouth is and buy the dip if you've been really begging for it, because who knows how long this will last. It could definitely go up from here, or it could definitely break down. It's anyone's guess. I would have actually, out of any day, would have anticipated Lucid to actually pump and move up higher because of this right here. So the whole hyper associated to Timothy and what that might mean, because I think I've seen some posts as well saying that there's going to be some like Champions League kind of integrations of this, or even through NFL. So yeah, big things might be coming, but clearly big money didn't really willing to or want to buy or anything like that. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.